said, you've been dogging me for years before I met you. And I found out after the fact, because see, me, the kind of woman I am, had I had known you had been dogging me for years, I never would have moved the way I moved to make some shit happen. But I didn't know that till after the fact. Was it intentional? Maybe. Some little shicey, maybe. But everything done in the dark always comes to the light, and baby girl, it came to the light. So, you too old too. You too old. Go find somebody else to play with. Go find somebody else to play with. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. I'm telling you, I'm telling y'all, ain't no way these the elders that the Bible speak on, it just ain't no way. It's just no way.
Melody Sherry's life had already been through enough drama to last anyone a lifetime. She had faced heartbreak, betrayal, and public scrutiny, yet she always carried herself with strength. She worked hard to rebuild her life after her relationship with Martell Holt ended. She focused on her children, her career, and creating a peaceful environment for herself and her family. For a while, it seemed like she had finally found stability. She was smiling again, moving forward, and showing the world that she was capable of rising above everything that had tried to pull her down. But peace is fragile when the people around you aren't careful with their actions. Melody noticed small shifts in energy, moments that didn't feel right, and interactions that seemed unnecessary. At first, she brushed them off, thinking perhaps she was overthinking. After everything she had been through, she wanted to believe that the world wasn't full of betrayal and that people weren't intentionally trying to hurt her. She wanted to focus on healing, not suspicion. Yet the truth has a way of revealing itself, no matter how much someone wants to avoid it. Slowly, Melody started connecting dots she had previously ignored. There were interactions, glances, conversations, and coincidences that didn't add up. The signs were subtle at first. Stormy, someone Melody had trusted and allowed into her space, began to show behaviors that made Melody feel uneasy. What once appeared as support and friendship slowly began to show cracks. Stormy had been close, supportive, and seemingly understanding. From the outside, it looked like a healthy friendship between two women navigating complicated relationships. But behind the facade, things weren't as they seemed. Stormy was in Melody's circle during a vulnerable time. She knew Melody's history, she knew what she had been through, and she knew the pain she had endured. Yet the actions and patterns that Melody noticed hinted at something deeper, something hidden. Melody didn't rush to judgment. She had learned from the past that reacting too quickly could lead to public embarrassment or unnecessary drama. She stayed quiet, observed, and collected her thoughts. She wanted proof before making any decisions or confronting anyone. Melody had been through enough to know that accusations without evidence could backfire and create more chaos than resolution. Then, slowly, the pieces started to fit together. She noticed repeated interactions between Martell and Stormy that didn't seem natural or coincidental. Their energy around each other felt different, more personal. There were moments, small but significant, that she could no longer ignore. Fans may not have seen these moments initially, but for Melody, they were impossible to overlook. Her intuition, sharpened by previous experiences, began to confirm what she had hoped wasn't true. The moment of clarity came unexpectedly. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, almost accidental. Melody came across information she wasn't even looking for. An exchange, a conversation, a connection between Martell and Stormy that could no longer be explained away as coincidence. When she realized the truth, her heart sank. Everything she had observed, every uneasy feeling, every subtle sign suddenly made sense. The betrayal wasn't from a stranger or someone distant. It came from people she had trusted, people she allowed into her space, people who should have respected her boundaries. This wasn't just about Martell being unfaithful in the past or repeating old patterns. It was about someone she considered a friend knowingly participating in something deceptive. That kind of betrayal cuts differently because it comes from someone who should have been loyal. It wasn't just heartbreak, it was disappointment, disbelief, and the realization that trust is fragile. Melody's entire understanding of the people around her shifted in an instant. Even after facing this revelation, Melody handled it differently than most would expect. She didn't lash out publicly in a messy, chaotic way. She didn't go online to make loud accusations or dramatize the situation. Instead, she took a step back, allowed herself to process, and approached the situation with clarity. She pulled away from social media, focused on her children, and gave herself the time to think strategically. She knew that how she responded would define her story, not Martell or Stormy's actions. When Melody finally spoke, her words were deliberate. She didn't need to name everyone involved. She didn't need to provide every detail. She simply exposed the truth in a way that was clear, direct, and impossible to ignore. She addressed the betrayal without chaos, but with authority and intention. People watching understood the weight of her words because Melody's tone carried the strength of someone who had endured far too much. The revelation sent shockwaves. Fans were stunned not just by what had happened, but by who was involved. Stormy, who had seemed supportive, had a hidden side that betrayed Melody's trust. Martell's actions, which had been under scrutiny before, were now connected to a much bigger, more personal story. Social media erupted. People shared clips, discussed the situation, and analyzed every interaction. Fans were not only shocked, but also impressed by Melody's composure. Many praised her for handling such a painful situation with grace and maturity. Melody's response was a turning point in her story. For years, she had been seen as someone who stayed strong despite heartbreak. But this time, her response wasn't just about staying strong. It was about setting boundaries, protecting her peace, and prioritizing herself above the drama. She had learned from experience that some battles aren't worth fighting publicly. Some truths don't need constant explanations. Sometimes the power comes from silence, observation, and choosing the right moment to speak. This moment also highlighted Melody's growth. She no longer reacted out of emotion or impulsivity. She responded with intention, demonstrating a maturity that comes from surviving challenges and learning from past mistakes. She didn't allow herself to be dragged into conflict. Instead, she took control of the narrative by choosing how, when, and where to address the situation. Her focus remains on her children, her business, and her own emotional health. Martell and Stormy's actions had consequences, but Melody's handling of the situation turned the tables. Instead of being caught up in gossip or speculation, she became the voice of reason and clarity. Her strength and composure made it clear to everyone watching that she was no longer the same person who tolerated betrayal or confusion. She had grown, she had learned, and she had chosen herself first. The situation also served as a lesson in understanding relationships, trust, and boundaries. Melody's story illustrates that betrayal is not always easy to detect, especially when it comes from someone close. It shows that even when things appear calm on the surface, subtle signs can indicate deeper issues. More importantly, it demonstrates how patience, observation, and emotional intelligence can help navigate challenging situations without losing oneself. Even after revealing the truth, Melody maintained her dignity. She did not allow anger or public scrutiny to dictate her response. She prioritized her family's well-being, ensuring her children were protected from unnecessary tension. She chose peace over revenge and clarity over chaos. Fans watching recognized the importance of this choice and the maturity it required. Melody's journey from heartbreak to empowerment serves as a reminder that growth often comes from adversity. The betrayal she faced could have caused her to retreat or react impulsively, but instead, she turned it into an opportunity to protect her peace and reinforce her boundaries. By doing so, she showed that strength is not only in surviving pain, but also in how one responds to it. As the story unfolded, it became clear that this moment wasn't just about exposing a secret romance. It was about showing that personal growth and self-respect are more important than drama, speculation, or gossip. Melody's decision to handle the situation